Good day, fifth grade students. This is Mr. Keller, and this will be part of your Wednesday's lesson this week. And today we're going back in time to the year 1777, and I'm representing a member of the colonial militia. Now, militia are different from the regular soldiers that would fight in blue and white uniforms and red uniforms. Militia were your dads and your uncles and your brothers who were the first to be called up to protect your town and to protect your village against the British or anybody who was attacking it. They would practice on Sundays, usually after a church service, and they were the first to defend your village before the regular troops could get there. And they were the ones that would also be doing the kind of the woods-like fighting and hiding behind stone walls and things like that, instead of the always in a straight line and firing. So first off, we'll talk about the weapon used today by the militia. This is called a Brown Bess musket. And this musket is actually a British musket. Even though I'm fighting against England, this would have been either inherited from my father, who fought as a British soldier in the French and Indian War here against the French, or it was taken off a British ship, or taken from the Brits and stolen and given to us. Other militia are going to use fowling pieces. That means guns that were used for hunting duck or squirrel or whatever they had. But this is called a Brown Bess musket. You can tell it is an English musket because it has the word tower here for the Tower of London in England. And it has GR, which means George Rex, which is the King of England at that time. You can even see a bit of his crown left on it. Now, I'm going to pan back here. A musket has three different parts to it. The first is called the lock system here. The lock is everything you need to fire the weapon to make a spark. The stock is the wooden part. This is called the butt, and this is called the forestock. And then you have the barrel, of course. And there's even a modern expression today. It says lock, stock, and barrel. If you buy something lock, stock, and barrel, that means you get the whole kit all together, or all of the pieces in one. Okay. Now let's focus in on this lock. The lock has a very sharp stone called a flint in it. This flint is so sharp that it's in this jaws of a hammer, and this is going to be pushed back, and when it hits the steel plate here, it's going to take off chips of steel, and the friction is going to be so great, it's actually going to start the steel on fire for a second, and I will show you now. Do it one more time. Those bits of burning metal are forced into this little indentation called a pan. And if you look carefully, there's a hole called a touch hole that goes inside the barrel. When I fire this, I'm going to put a little bit of black powder here. The frizzen will hold it down, the powder. Now, it is at a safety position here. This is called half cock. And this will not go off when I'm marching or if I drop the weapon. But if I don't maintain this and I don't keep it oiled and I don't work on it, it actually can deteriorate and accidentally fire at this half-cocked position. It's called going off half-cocked, and that is actually an expression today that means that's someone who's easy to get angry and who starts yelling for no reason at all. Now, the full cock position, now that just takes a little bit of a touch with my finger and it creates that spark. This is called a frizzen cover. This is when I'm marching and the weapon's loaded. The flint will strike this and no spark will happen. Now, to load this, well, let's talk about the barrel next. If you look inside this barrel, it's smooth, just like a barrel or a tube of metal, a pipe. Now the musket ball is about the size of a nickel. It's a 75 caliber ball. And since there's no grooves cut into this barrel, that ball doesn't spin when it comes out. It kind of wobbles around. So a smooth bore is not very accurate. if you look at the far wood pile over there, if a man was standing over there, I'd be pretty lucky to hit him that far away. So these smooth bores were not very accurate. That's why you want to have 5, 10, 50 people firing all at once. Now, inside of the stock is a ramrod, and it has a wide end. This is going to be to push, after I pour the powder down, of course, to push that musket ball and paper down and to ram it all the way to the bottom. Now, during a battle, you got to be very careful not to leave it in there, because if you fire your ramrod out, you're never getting it back again, and you can't load your musket. Okay, so I think we have, once again, these are the parts. We have the lock that has the flint and the steel frizzen. We have the stock, which is the wooden part, forestock, buttstock, and we have the barrel, 3 parts of a musket. Okay, so I'm gonna load this and fire it now for you. Now, a well-trained soldier with a smooth bore is gonna be able to load this about every 15 seconds. So I've actually fired this 4 times in a minute, and that's a lot, especially if you have 5, 10, 20 people all firing at once every 15 seconds. It's quite useful. Now, a rifle is much more accurate back then, but took longer to load because that ball fit in a tight grooved barrel. It was harder to push the ball down, and it took a lot longer to load it, but they're very, very accurate. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do when I load this is I'm going to reach into my cartridge box, and I'm going to pull out a paper cartridge. Now, if this were a real cartridge, it would have the black powder on one end. It would have a musket ball on the other. So when I would rip this open, I would rip it open with my teeth. I'm going to pour a little bit of powder in this pan, and that's called priming it. Then I'm going to pour the rest of the powder down, and then I'm just going to drop the paper down inside of it. Now, I'm not going to use a ball today. It'll be too dangerous, but I am going to use the paper and the black powder. And that paper also acts as a wad to keep that ball in tight. In case I'm marching downhill, the ball doesn't roll out the barrel. So I'll load it now. First thing I do is rip it open. Pour a little bit of black powder. Okay, so should take a close look at my hand. That is black powder. This is 3F powder, about mid-course, about the size of sand. Okay, and that's what I'm going to use. Now a little bit's going through that hole now, and this is going to, the frizzen's going to hold the powder. Man, this is going to keep rain out a little bit. This will fire in a misty day, but if it starts raining heavily, you can't fire it at all. Then, I'm going to flip my muzzle around, keeping it away from my face. I'm going to pour the rest of the powder down. Now at this time, the ball would have been tied at the end. So I would put the ball in the paper, take out my ramrod, give it a good pat down. And now it's ready to fire. Full cocking my fire lock. Click. And then I want you to watch for a flash here from this powder, and then the flash at the end. It'll be almost instantaneous. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Try again. All right. So lastly, I'm going to fire it one more time, but I'm going to go through some of the manual arms that a soldier is trained to do so they can be more disciplined and all load and fire at the same time. Shoulder position, poise your fire locks, rest your fire locks. This is a type of salute you would do with a gun. Order your fire locks. At ease. This is a position where soldiers are allowed to talk next to, with a soldier next to them until they hear head alarms. Shoulder your fire lock. Priming load. That concludes our musket demonstration today, kids, and have fun doing this lesson. And next time we'll do this, we'll do fire starting with flint and steel. Huzzah!